Hello and welcome to Profiles in Risk. This is your very sleep-deprived host, Tony Cañas, with the manliest voice I've ever had in a podcast recording because I am way coarse from the last week of being on the road. Today, I have with me Marlena Sarunac,
Yep.
fractional CMO, and Lubna Hameed, partner and head of design consulting at The Company Advice. Thank you for joining me today. How are you guys today?
Good. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, we're great.
My absolute pleasure. So we are recording on Monday, June 10th. Last week, I was at Insurtech Insights for the whole week, or just about, and then I came to Chicago for a wedding. And then, and after partying in Chicago from Thursday through Sunday night, missed my flight this morning. So I was still in Chicago at a random hotel near Midway, waiting for my 7 p.m. replacement flight. I met you guys at Insurtech New York. That was like a month and a half ago, I think, something like that.
March, right? March.
Yeah.
Seems about right. So, yes, no, actually that makes perfect sense because I had just gotten back from Argentina like a week prior. Okay. That was my first conference of the spring season this year. And so I walk into Insurtech New York. It's my first Insurtech New York. And walk into the expo hall, which is not gigantic. And to my right, the coolest booth I have seen in a very long time, themed after the Peanuts, the Doctor is in theme. And basically spent like a third of the conference chatting with you guys because you had the coolest booth. And you're both so friendly. Okay. So fast forward to last week. I see Lubna at Insurtech Insights New York, which again was a fantastic conference. So, but you guys, according to LinkedIn, you are, well, Lubna's New York based, and Marlena, LinkedIn, you're also New York based.
I used to be New York based, but now I live in Rhode Island. But you can take the New Yorker out of New York, but you can't take the New York out of the New Yorker.
My little brother, who is going to school in Kansas, is spending the summer in Rhode Island.
Oh, no way. Why?
Yeah. Helping a friend landscape a very large property, basically.
Interesting. Well, after the call, you can connect me with him if he needs a friend or something,
Perfect. I have never been to Rhode Island. It's one of like 12 states that I have not been to.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely gonna go see him. So I'll ping you, because I'll probably go see him, and we'll do a like New England tour because that's such a beautiful area of the
especially in the summer. It's like really fantastic to be here in the summer.
I did that last year, because we were living in Argentina, so in between conferences, I hung out with some of my best friends in St. Albans, Vermont. Went to Montreal and also went to New Hampshire, to Portland. And didn't make it to Bangor. So this time I'd love to go to Bangor to do the Stephen King tour. So anyway, I also need to come say hi to Kelly Donahue Piro, who lives in Rhode Island. Okay. So we always give the guest a chance to give the elevator pitch. What is The Company Advice?
I'm gonna Lubna. Ultimate partners here, we're truly hand in hand. No, Lubna, I think you should tee us off.
Well, I mean, to start us off, Marlena and I are very well versed in the startup world. So we totally get the early stage startup, all the struggles, the runway issues, the resources, the time. So we know it very, very well. And what we wanted to do was start a company that helped you out at that stage. So you have that experience, marketing and design leadership and execution right from the very beginning, building that foundation from the start and not waiting till you hit Series A or B to kind of start thinking those things through. So being those fractional leaders that you can bring on much earlier to help guide that process. Marlena, I'm sure you have
Yeah.
you
I mean,
take it away.
We've both seen our fair share of startups, as Lubna has alluded to, Insurtech, health tech, and also other stuff, and fintech and whatnot, multiple techs. And, I wouldn't say that like the marketing and design side of the house is discounted, but it's definitely often deprioritized in the early days. And it makes sense because you're still figuring out what your product is, you're figuring out PMF, you're figuring out who you're selling it to, is this viable? You have an MVP out. And once that MVP starts to, grow up a little bit and it starts becoming like not just a little MVP, but more of like a bigger MVP, it makes a lot of sense to start bringing in some kind of marketing and design thinking to help make that little MVP grow up nice, big and strong. Because ultimately, sometimes some founders and some engineers believe that if you build it, they will come. And I think time and time again, you learn that's not the case.
Let me pause you right there because I am not an engineer and I am not a marketer. I play one on TV, so to speak. But my background is my bachelor's is in management information systems, but I've never worked on the IT side at all. And my MBA is a general MBA. I wanted to do a marketing MBA, but the school had some issues and I ended up with a general MBA. Okay. But I am a marketing nerd. So I'm not a marketer, but I'm a marketing nerd and a business nerd. And one thing from being a business nerd that I've learned, I'm only 41, which for insurance is young, for Insurtech is old. But basically it is clear that the best engineered product has no guarantee of winning, right? There's some good examples. Probably the most famous one is beta versus VHS, right? And for any Gen Z listeners, that is how we watch movies back in the day before streaming and before DVDs. Hopefully you don't know what a DVD is, but this was physical streaming. Okay. So back in the 80s, late 70s and 80s, before my time, but still, the technically better product, better engineered, was beta. Right? But they didn't win the fight. VHS was marketed better. And VHS won the fight, right? And then it happened again post. So DVDs really didn't have competition, but post DVDs, the slight period of like HD non-streaming. Right, we had Bluetooth and HD DVD, and same story. HD DVD was the better technical product. Bluetooth won the marketing battle and was the one that became default, and then everything died to streaming. But the point being, and this has happened in many industries, it is not the best technical product that wins.
Right.
It's the product that is technically good enough that has marketing tends to win.
Absolutely.
So anyway, sorry for interrupting.
Yeah, I know. I think that's an excellent segue because I think that is something really important for founders to think about. Whether or not their product is the best, it needs to be marketed the best. And if it's not, and it needs to be designed the best. And if it's neither of those things, it will fall by the wayside. I mean, we have this stat from CB Insights that 62% of startups fail exclusively due to marketing and branding issues. 62%. So, I mean, it just like, it makes you like wonder, it makes you really ask yourself, like, like knock, knock, startup founder, like, what are you doing? Why aren't you investing in this kind of support? And why don't you want to elevate your product? This is your baby. You've nurtured it. You've dreamt it up. You're bringing it to market. There's a reason that these specialists exist to make it look and feel great, be accessible, be an excellent experience from a user perspective, but also discoverable. And it has a story to tell. And I think like, right now Insurtech is a really exciting time There's a lot being built and a lot of innovation happening, but there's a lot of storytelling that needs to take place so that you can break out from the crowd.
62% of startups fail because of marketing issues. I know that you quoted that it comes from CB Insights. So I know that this is not your own primary research, but I am curious if you know, is it 62% of startups that fail because of marketing issues, or is it 52% of all startups fail because of marketing issues? And if you don't know, that's fine. We can just include the link to the study.
What was the difference between the two questions?
Okay, perfect. So what you said, I can read it in two different ways.
Yeah.
One way of reading it is 62% of startups that end up failing. So the N is that the startups that failed, which is the majority, fail because of marketing issues, or is it 62% of all startups fail because of marketing issues? So the overall number of startups that are part of the study, does it include both failed and non-failed startups?
Yeah, it's a good question. Lubna, do you know?
I believe it's the latter. So of all startups, 62% of them fail due to marketing and branding issues.
Yeah.
So it's not just the marketing, it's the branding, because the brand also is the part people forget about is, your brand speaks to your target customer, right? It's an emotion.
So I have an idea of what the difference is between marketing, branding, advertising, okay, and sales. But a technology side first-time co-founder likely has no idea. So what is the difference between branding and marketing?
That's a great question. I mean, they are very closely related, and but they serve distinct functions. So with branding, it's about developing a distinct identity and an emotional connection. This would include basically like it's the essence of who your company is, whereas marketing is more about, I guess, like the tactical execution of that. And so it's more about the promotion and actual selling of your product or services.
I think I have an amazing example, amazing from my perspective.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go for it.
So branding, the distinct identity and emotional connection. So the branding is the crazy long-haired guy that runs around with what's it called, hard glasses, that uses this business card and that does magic at Insurtech conference. Great brand. Okay. The marketing is this guy actually having a tactic on how do I get in front of the companies I want to get in front of? How do I make sure that they know that I don't just run the podcast, but that I also am a recruiter, right? There are different things that are very closely related. Perfect.
Definitely. I would even also say like marketing is like asking someone out on a date. It's about making a compelling offer. You want to attract them, you want to persuade them. And then the branding is who you are on that date. And so it's your personality, it's your values, it's the experience that you're providing. It's like what keeps them coming back.
Exactly. That's what I was wanting to say. Branding is not just like, the visual of it. It's like, how do you speak about yourself? How do you speak to others? That voice also has a lot to do with branding.
Perfect. Right. So, okay. So if I put, it's my world is really funny because I have made myself accidentally kind of synonymous with US Insurtech, but I am not a founder. It actually happened to me at Insurtech Hartford where like I'm sitting with a bunch of founders and somebody's taking a picture and going like, amazing set of founders, and I'm like, I'm not a founder. I've never been a founder. I founded Insurance Nerds, but it's not really a business. We're trying to make it one 9 years later. Okay. So I'm not an Insurtech founder, and I've never worked for an Insurtech. I run the largest podcast in Insurtech. I do recruiting for Insurtech. So I do understand the world of Insurtech very well, but I'm not an Insurtech founder. But putting myself in the shoes of a founder, especially the technical founder, right? Hopefully, they partner with a business side founder that understands insurance and that understands marketing, but likely they don't. So I think that you've made a really good case as to why they really should consider doing this before Series A or Series B. And they probably are thinking, we don't have the money yet, right? We haven't. So what does a fractional relationship with you guys, what how does that work? What does that look like?
Yeah.
I mean, basically, the beauty of fractional means that depending on what stage you're at, what sort of resources you have, like what needs you have, we can do like a diagnostic assessment, figure out how we can help and help, you know, we can ramp up if you need more help, ramp down if say like, you know, you don't need as much help, you have a milestone coming up, a launch, investor meeting, we can ramp things up. And then again, if you've already started hiring a resource to kind of take over, say the marketing or design, ramp back down and kind of help make that transition as well. So, you know, we know the startup world well, so we know that, you know, you're not always going to be at that same pace. So we can be flexible in how that engagement works out.
Perfect. So what I'm hearing is no long-term long-term commitment.
Correct.
Perfect. And you guys you come from the startup space, so you understand how my world as the founder is very dynamic, changes very often. We might, you know, wildly, hopefully not, but it's very similar to it's very similar to the way that we recruit, where like we tell the startups that like we understand the Insurtech, we understand that your world changes very often. We're very good at fitting in with you, helping you find the right talent while you're very dynamic, changing very quickly.
And I think that there's sometimes like heart-shaped eyes that founders and, you know, no actual
Oh
pun
my God.
but I think that there are heart-shaped eyes for executives that might come from kind of a sexy enterprise background. They have a sexy pedigree, and that all sounds great in principle, bringing that expertise on board, but bringing that person in to build a strategy from scratch that's changing and pivoting a lot can be really painful for them and for you. They're used to structure, they're used to working at a legacy enterprise company where things move really slowly. I'm not discounting their experience. I think that they all offer a lot of valuable experience, but I think that if you're able to get that experience through fractional work, that you're all a little bit better off that way, because the actual day-to-day challenges of leading the marketing and design side of the house as well, you need to wear a lot of hats, and you need to really roll up your sleeves, and you need to build stuff from scratch. And that's something that a high-level executive typically hasn't done in a really long time. And if they did, it was maybe 20 years ago. So you're working with a completely different tech stack, completely different team composition, completely different timelines. Not to mention, in this current landscape, I think that, you know, when I started dabbling in startups like 15 years ago, what it took to be a Series A or Series B startup has dramatically changed. Those goalposts have been moving up, and now the typical KPIs and the typical milestones that you would need to demonstrate to be even a viable prospect for Series C or Series D, we're starting to see earlier and earlier. So you need to start having these types of numbers and this type of traction and the ability to track these KPIs very early on. So at Series A, and being able to do that is not easy. You need someone who can come in there, build out the foundational work required for you to even be able to start generating those metrics. And then you need someone who knows how to interpret those metrics. So I recently was on a webinar with Andrea Collins, who is the CMO at Cyberbell. and she was previously the CMO at Hippo, and was instrumental in leading that company to an IPO. And I think that we all love to look up to Hippo as a fantastic Insurtech example. And we really dove into like what those KPIs are needed at each stage. And we both agreed, and she had some fantastic insights that she shared about, you know, she's been in those calls, she's been in those meetings. I've certainly been in those board meetings where those goalposts are being moved up by a lot. And I don't think that everyone is prepared. And I think a lot of founders are being caught off guard when they find out that they don't have anything to show for in this space.
There's a, yes, that was very good. That makes a lot of sense to me. So
If you want, sorry, if you want any kind of deep dive on that webinar, by the way, we did post it on the Company Advice's blog. So
Perfect.
there's a summary of the webinar. There's a recording of the webinar itself as well, and you will get to learn which key KPIs are imperative at Series A, B, and C. We talked about CAC and CLV. So how do you calculate your CAC? How do you ensure your payback period aligns with your customer retention projections? You can find all of that in that post and on the webinar if you pop over to
what is the URL?
thecompanyadvice.com.
Thecompanyadvice.com. Perfect. I'll include that.
We have a corner of the website. It's dedicated to nice advice, and it's all nice advice for founders. And you know, you alluded to our booth that you discovered at Insurtech New York. We had the nice advice booth, and that's really our, you know, that's what a big part of our offering is. The advice is nice. It's really important for us that we are helping founders hit the ground running and start kicking ass as soon as possible.
From your website, I always love looking at the websites and like asking or commenting about them. Did you know 62% of startups fail due to marketing and branding issues? 49% of companies with well-planned marketing strategies are more profitable. 200% startups with good design outperform their peers by 200%. By the way, each of these are properly sourced. This one's from McKinsey. McKinsey. Startups with good design outperform their peers by 200%. Not only are the numbers wild on that one,
Yeah.
but yes, chances are most Insurtech startups have good technology but not great design. And well-designed websites convert up to 200% more. Also, you guys have over 30 years of marketing and design experience. Okay, so I think this is a really great spot to transition to what is the origin story? How, kind of like, tell us a little bit about your backgrounds and how you realized that this was a need and came together to make it happen.
Sure. I mean, in terms of like my story to kind of start off, I've been working in design for quite a long time. I won't say how many years at this point, just to not date myself too much, but quite a while. And then focused a lot on UI UX, initially in the health tech space, just because there was a huge gap between user experience and patients, and it seemed like a very important place for patients to be able to have a good user experience, be able to get things done. And the design was at least a decade behind, if not more, which was problematic. So I wanted to make a difference there. And through that, I actually ended up at a company called Particle Health, where I was head of design, helping with their API developer platform. So that was actually where I met Marlena, and I'll pass it to her.
Yeah, I was running marketing at Particle. Lubna and I think we did a lot of magic with building out Particle's brand and our place in the market, and built a lot of market credibility. What we were offering was highly sensitive, and it could have been, the story could have been told in a lot of different ways, but we were always very focused on an ethical mission, ethical use of the data, and how to tell that story properly so that folks were comfortable with how that, what was going on behind the scenes, technically speaking. Additionally, at the time, we built a brand that it was important that it lent credibility in the enterprise space. And we had a B2B business model, but we always kind of had our eye at the time on individual access to medical records and what that would look like and feel like from a consumer brand. So we built a brand that could stretch both ways. And that was hard, but it was really gratifying. And one of I would say it was a career highlight of mine, was working with Lubna and building that out. And just going through all of the painful motions of doing that, on top of the other startups that I had built out the marketing from scratch, we knew that we had a playbook that was really valuable, and we knew that if we started to offer it as a service, that we could find a lot of folks that had great ideas but didn't know how to get them out into the market, tell the story in a compelling way, or design the user experience in a way that made people want to come back for more. Everybody kind of has these ideas about what great design is. People love to point to Apple, amazing design, they have the best designers in the world. Yes, absolutely. But the actual know-how of how to develop a sticky product that people love, that's hard to come by. And for Lubna and I to be able to join forces in that way, I think that makes the company advice incredibly compelling for any early stage startup that's just figuring out, where do we start? Because there's 1,000 things that we need to do, maybe 1,000,000. What are the first 100 things we can start this month? And we can tell them, let's start here. We're going to build this out. There's no point in chasing down, these channels just yet. Let's figure this out first, and we're going to build our way up in a logical way, in an operationally sound framework. And that's really the impetus of the idea. And then, of course, the nice advice and consulting and all of that comes along with the territory, because you end up being consulted on much more than just the basic principles of marketing or product design. You end up really getting involved with a lot of things. I think that's just like the nature of the beast. When you're building something and you have a small team and you're a little bit resource constrained, everyone gets their hands dirty with everything. It's a very exciting time at a startup, at any startup. And it's really, frankly, my favorite time of a startup. It's that early messiness when you have 12 people just sitting around hashing it out and figuring out what to do. But that's, of course, like the masochistic side of me. I think I just really enjoy that hard work and that grind.
It's fun to be scrappy. I think that's the best part of the startup world, is that scrappiness.
For sure.
Fantastic. Thank you. Yeah, you make a fantastic case for the why and the how of what you guys do. And having had 550 some startups on this podcast, I absolutely agree with you that this is deeply necessary. And that it is not often done very well by the early stage startups. From your own website, let's maximize your growth. Audience discovery, get discovered by your target audience more efficiently, accelerated ROI, start seeing ROI on your marketing and sales efforts. That's a big one. Big one. Quick start playbooks, hit the ground running with easy to execute proven playbooks, competitive advantage, stand out in your market category with a best-in-class user experience. I love it. Absolutely love it. And you guys are at the same time very experienced in your field, and also a very new company. It's I'm so glad that I ran into you guys very early in the journey of the company advice in its current form, and because it'll be really, really fun to see you guys grow and to see you help your clients grow. So you were at Insurtech, New York. We are recording on June 10th, past Insurtech Insights, which in my mind is the end of the spring conference calendar. I do have a couple more that I'm going to, but what conferences are you guys expecting to be at for the rest of the year and in the fall?
That's a good
Well, yeah, it's a great question that we've been deliberating, kicking around. I think it's likely that you'll see us prowling the highly air-conditioned hallways of ITC Vegas. I think that that's just it's a great show. There's so many people, tremendous opportunity there. So I think that it's a possibility that you will see us there. Hopefully it'll cool off in Vegas by then, since it's
Yeah.
hot right now.
quite
From
hot.
what-
We heard it's like 110 right now, which seems
Yeah.
intense.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, no, Vegas in the summer. No, that's a no. All right. Thank you so much for your time today. When this goes live, I will tag both you and the company on LinkedIn. Yeah, thank you so much for your time today. I look forward to see you guys continue to grow this thing, and thank you for the service
Awesome.
you're providing to our
Thank
community.
you, Tony. Thanks for the opportunity for us to be able to tell our story.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah,
Thank you.
it was fun.